Divine Rise. Blessed be to your day. May be everything you require to create everything that you desire. Remember, you are deserving, but you are not entitled. Remember that you are deserving, but you're not entitled. And healing is destructive. Remember, you are deserving, but you're not entitled. And you are to remember that healing is destructive. Today, while I was on my run, I was sitting back and I was thinking about the monologue of the law of even exchange. I was thinking about the law of even exchange. I was thinking about the law of gender. Thinking about passive aggressiveness versus being directly or intimately direct. Think about the intimate directness. Thinking about the law of gender, the law of even exchange. And yeah, and it made me think about predator becoming prey. You're praying to the predator, so to speak. Praying to the aspect of the predator becoming the prey, or that Stockholm syndrome that we face in aspects of our work. And it made me really think about this aspect, this thought process of the difference between being direct, and being passive aggressive. A lot of times for the masculine aspect, we'll think that being aggressive is the same as being direct. We've confused being aggressive with being direct. We have this thought process we think that being passive is the same thing as being submissive. Remember, two sides of the same coin. So the law of even exchange is, in this simple example, the more aggressive that I am, the more loud that I am, the more angry, the more lack of emotional intelligence that I have, the more that I shall seek wants to be passive to whatever my argument, to passively accept my argument, to passively accept my space, to passively accept me under that condition. This goes into the aspect, we're going to get into the divine, more into the divine feminine and divine masculine this Friday. But the true aspects of you being the impartial point, what we talked about in the God Hour podcast, the immaculate perspective, is to become impartial, is to become ultimately, I talked about this before, become ultimately emotionally present. That means you don't avoid the emotion. Whatever the emotion is, you're not looking at it as from something made me angry. I need to understand what is the baseline to my anger. What is it rooted in? That's how you become present. That's how you grow the new roots. Until then, you'll think about it like this. Through the law of even exchange, you will always get based on what you are. You don't get based on where you want to be. You don't get based on where you were. You get based on the reflection of what you are in this state, in this space. In the aspects, I should have put the law of duality in there. In the duality of this, you will get what you want, that is the lesson, and you will get what you need based on learning that lesson. So now you got to look into your space. Something as simple as you want to become better in the sense of relationships, friendships, whatever it may be. You want to be more unified and more balanced. Everything down here is working in your favor. Nothing is out of balance. Everything falls into the laws. Everything falls into every law in every category. us, we must go past this point of emotional relevance. You got to go past the point of emotional relevance, or what I'm always talking about, that reaction, that is comfort, that relevance. See, as long as I'm seeking outside, as long as I'm seeking something based on my relevance, something to keep me angry, as long as I'm seeking something, as long as I'm angry and I don't understand the root of why I'm angry, everything that I will bring into my space based on even exchange, based on the attraction, shall be for me based on the emotional aspect. This how it flipped. The emotional aspect, it'll come into my space in that feminine aspect. It doesn't have to be the woman comes into your life and the man comes into your life. That's not the law of gender. The law of gender is that masculine and the feminine. So you got to think about I've talked about this before when we talk about seats. Videos on my YouTube channel, Gotical Alchemist. You got to think about the aspect of what seat you are sitting in. What seat were you sitting in to receive what you first received? One of the posts that I made today was thinking about the Netflix and chill or the predator mindset. Especially when we talk about sexual trauma. You think about the first time you had sex, the first time sex being the communication, the first time something was communicated to you, your emotional intelligence is the comprehension, and then what you created from that space. So from the predator mindset, a lot of us were kept due to the survival narrative. The survival narrative, which is the lack mentality, which means I'm trying to get more. Why rent it? Why do the work or the potential to gain potential when I can rent it? That's the kinetic. That means I can just keep doing what I'm doing. Why do the work? That means why apply when I can bring things into my space? And this goes into the aspects of you being, the difference is understanding, are you being direct? Or are you being intimately direct? Are you being intimately direct? Or are you being passively aggressive? See, a lot of times I remember going into spaces where I felt I was being direct. But because I felt I was being passive aggressive, it was always from a point of a bias. That means I always needed to state some shit first to the reason why I'm the way I am. I had nothing to solidify the argument. I could always say something as simple. You can always say something. I'm a good woman, or I'm a good man, or I'm a good person. I'm a good employee. You're a good employee, i.e. you're a good woman, you're a good man, good girlfriend, good boyfriend, good husband, good whatever it is, whatever identity you put on top of that. Because, and this is where we get into that algorithm of the psychological aspect, your algorithm that you created. Because I love hard. I've talked about you don't love hard, you love undisciplined. I give my all. Where did you learn to give your all? What was the first argument based on you giving your all? A lot of times when we go into the aspect, think about your mother. Think about your mother. Think about your mother in the relationship with your father. And then your mother goes into this bitter aspect and mirroring. And now you sitting there inside of your space with yourself. And your mother always talks ill of your father. He doesn't give money. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. So now think about the direction that your mind takes in that argument. That now you will be in this sense of being direct. It becomes the money, the byproduct. The byproduct of your emotional intelligence. Remember, money is the byproduct of your emotional literacy, and its byproduct is financial literacy. So the byproduct of your financial literacy would be the money, the job, the certifications, whatever you buy into. The obstacle of your debt. The obstacle is the debt. So as long as I'm not dealing with that original point, my even exchange will be, due to my struggle, due to the things that I've been through, I will always be deserving based on those resources. So now I'm stuck in that resource. I'm the first motherfucker to go to college in the family. But you didn't learn the lineage of your family. So when you went to go get these lessons, not understanding the lineage of your family as this example, you don't know how to apply. You wondering why you struggling in something because you didn't understand the lineage or the DNA or the how to communicate or the comprehension of how you take in information. So now you just stuck in that space. You got a job. You got everything that you wanted. You got everything that you wanted. Or you're striving for everything that you want. And you'll fight for everything that you want. Based on the struggle mentality. Based on the survival complex of the law of even exchange. I must struggle to get this. This is why you get triggered when inside of a relationship, any bonding that you come into with yourself, every time that it's becoming perfected, the infatuation of it becoming perfected. This is everything that I always wanted. That argument, I've talked about this argument before, and I'm going to say it again. 90% of your arguments from an unhealed space, when you're not doing this internal shadow work, 90% of your arguments that you have, 90% of when you go into a space, the realm of infatuation, you will lay the basis to feed your argument. You always going to feed your argument. The argument of you thinking niggas ain't shit, the argument of you thinking that you can't trust people, you will always put yourself in that space to feed that argument. There will always be a reason. And you will always need that in that. You will always need that resource in order for you to maintain the balance inside the space. You see how you keep the law even exchange in play? You see how you keep that law, the law of gender in play? What you know becoming the masculine, so your emotional relevance is in that feminine sense. So how you react to things, reaction based on relevance. You steady keep giving your all to prove what? I love hard. I'm willing to fight. Because why? Let's go back to the arguments. Let's go back to before the argument was cemented. What did you always see your parents doing? What did you always saw your parents fighting? Followed by love, followed by all of a sudden 9 months later, you got a little brother or sister. So that's how you learned the predator, the predator mentality, and then that's how you got preyed on. So now you constantly seek closure. Closure doesn't exist. Healing is not in closure. Healing is an understanding in this context. Healing is an understanding the law of even exchange. Your healing will be in understanding the law of even exchange. That you keep getting based on what you have not resolved. I always talk about your unresolved, your darkness, your unresolved, your darkness are the resources to what set the tone for everything inside of your space. It's what gives you everything that you're getting. What allows you to live inside the bias. It's what allows you to hide. Because on one side, as long as one side is available, you can hide behind it. You can mask yourself. You can look for things that fit your argument. That's your truth based on the traumatic experience. Women ain't shit. What is the basis of your argument? It's only based on your experience. And everything that you will attract will be based on that experience, based on that exchange. The exchange based on your separation from yourself. You want to be the predator? Most of the things that we do is from a predatory mindset. You seek chaos instead of becoming the chaos. See, I had to understand the difference between being in the divine masculine seat. That means I'm in balance with my divine masculine, divine feminine. I had to become intimately direct. Intimately direct. Versus being passive aggressive. Being passive aggressive is saying things and you get triggered by the insinuation. You live in the insinuation. You live on the other end of insinuation. Being intimately direct, it allows me to sit and become emotionally present. Therefore, I sit in insinuation. Therefore, whatever comes into my space, Whatever comes up, whatever argument, whatever is said, I can sit there and I can use insinuation. I can lead you to whatever direction is needed for you to learn. I can lead you into any direction impartially, and do not need, at the end of it, I don't need any credit because I already have my own credit. I don't need anything from you. It will be a discredit from that space. See, the predator complex is a need. The predator needs the prey and the prey needs the predator. They need each other. You need your sedity ass mama just like you need your hood ass dad. Or you need your hood ass mama just like you need your sedity ass dad. They both need to exist. Why? Because you always have an example of where you came from. You always have something to compare yourself to. You always have something to say, yo, I'm not like this anymore. Yeah, you are. Because if you weren't that anymore, those things wouldn't even exist to you. They wouldn't have the same access. See, when you come into the aspects of that access, that exchange, instead of you looking at it from transmitting, you start to transmute. See, one of the things that I had to understand with myself a long time ago was whenever it was time for me to make a new move, make a new step, bring something new into my space, trying to look for it to be a certain way only based on my argument, I deserve this, so I'm entitled to it. I had to realize the things that were coming up first were the things that I needed to work on. The more that I took that accountability and what I needed to work on, it changed the tone to the quality of what came into my space. Instead of me getting triggered and throwing it away, I could take it in, absorb it. Here's an example. You want to be in a nice, beautiful relationship, somebody that understands you, somebody that listens. It's an even reciprocation. The relationship that comes into your first space, I'm going to say 4 relationships. The first relationship is one of the qualities that you seek, that you want, that's going to be your lesson. To become and understand, to mirror those aspects, to absorb those aspects. The needs are going to be the things that they have not yet dealt with, that are in presence to the relevance of the emotion that you set your intention in. So you did it based on, let's say it was based on desperation. It says use desperation as an example. So you're desperately seeking a mate. You're desperately seeking a partner. You're desperately in seek of this. That is your relevant emotion. You don't understand why you're desperate because of guilt, insecurity, rejection. One of those resources that are back deep down in your shadow. So now you get a person in your life. And due to you thinking that you are being direct, the confusion between being direct and being aggressive, you are aggressively stating what you think is what you do not want. You are stuck now in the aggressive state. You are stuck in comparison. So now you are using, my last girlfriend did this, my last man did this, my last wife did this, my last 3 baby mothers did this, my baby fathers do this, and you're using comparison. So what are you programming into the space? You're programming your argument. You're programming your argument. Now this person, this entity, this energy, has one quality that had you infatuated. They listened to you. They gave you some attention. They listened to you. They had something that you needed. They had that one quality. But in the aspects of that want, they had a place, or they had a car, or they had a job. They had something that you thought was based on being aggressive or being what you thought was ambitious but was really obsessive. And I'm going to get into that next. So you thought it was being, they're ambitious. They were really obsessive. They're relevant to your obsession. They are present based on your obsession. Your relevance in your depression is because of your obsession to not deal or not understand that aspect of yourself. So now inside of that space, the needs of the lessons, they're going to trigger your obsession. They're going to trigger the insecurity. They're going to trigger your insecurity. They're going to trigger your doubt. They're going to trigger your self-worth. They're going to trigger your need to preserve or your preservation. They're going to keep triggering those points. Gets to a point, whether it becomes they use all your money or they overly, you thought the physical because, oh my God, I keep attracting niggas or I keep attracting bitches. I guess I got that good stroke. Let me put it like this. The more that you attract based on the physical, the more garbage you really are. The more garbage you really are. You thought that just because you had some strokes, or you had strokes, or you had this wet ass pussy, and that was making motherfuckers go crazy, you thought that set the tone for the quality of you. No, that's not how it works. That means that's showing you how fractured you are. If anything goes in, everything that cut law of even exchange, if I have unassessed shadows or fractures, or my soul has not been unlocked from that space, anything that goes into this void, anything that goes into that space, the only way that it connects is based on the same fracture. The only way that it comes in is based on the fracture. The relevance of that emotion. It's only in there based on the fracture. It's not you're not creating anything whole. So you can't get anything whole. That's why you'll get the example of, that's why you'll go back and forth with the example of you thought ambition without remember, I said it in the podcast, ambition without accountability is obsession. Obsession is the need to stay relevant based on keeping my actions relevant based on my conditions, to continue to stay within suffering. So I keep attracting things that keep me suffering. I keep attracting things that keep me suffering because I have a fear to sacrifice some shit. I can't take that accountability because it forces me to be real honest about myself. I'm not being direct. I'm being aggressive. I'm being passive aggressive. I'm not submitting because I don't know what submission is. So I know how to be passive. So my passiveness fits my narrative of loving so hard. Passiveness fits my narrative of loving so hard, and every time I put focus on somebody else, I see why I don't do it. That's why I act so aggressive at a certain point, because I'm insecure. I'm jealous. I'm in doubt. I have not dealt with it. So I keep getting that same aspect. So that's the first relationship. So that first quality, whether you learned it or not, you toss it back into the fire. You hope for something else to come back out. Now something else comes out. Now you took accountability based on recognition. That means you said something of short of, yeah, I'm going to take a bout of celibacy and I'm going to get into my fasting. I'm going to get into my bout of celibacy, or I'm going to learn semen retention and I'm going to fast a little bit, meditate more. Meditation just brings shit to the surface. What are you learning during your fasting, your celibacy, during your semen retention? If the argument behind it is because I'm waiting for somebody real to come along, then you'll stay celibate for a year and then you'll have 75 different niggas hitting you in your inbox. You'll have all types of women hitting you inside of your inbox. And you're like, see, this is why I'm celibate. So you gave the reason to your argument. Wherein the reason of it is because you're suppressing. So now suppression The suppression, that little cork that you keep putting into space, it needs to be cracked. That's why they keep coming into your space, to force you to look at yourself. Because all you're doing is suppressing something. You went right back into prey mode. See, everything that you did and everything that you've done in a certain sense, you have to really realize, think about how your first levels of attraction into your space. The survival mentality is the predator mentality. The lack mentality is the predator mentality. So most of the things you're doing, you went from Netflix to Netflix and chill, Hulu and whatever, to Bobby Hemmett and chill. Same narrative. Because you got to keep that story going. Because if you really look back at where you learned Netflix and chill, that's the same way that you learned how to communicate through sex. When we mean the sacred energy exchange. Remember, sex is just the communication. The emotional intelligence is the comprehension of that communication. So the more that I understand my emotions, what I create becomes a higher quality. So you are stuck in that predator mode. Why? Because you were born in predator mode. When we think about that aspect, I've talked about it with the generational curse. Think about with your grandmother. The aspect of sharecropping and the more kids that were the more kids that were had. The more kids that were had, the more money that we're going to make. You've been living out this same damn narrative. The same predator mentality. Your mother, the underlying regret of doing that and not being able to do something, your mother did the same thing. Your mother said, okay, cool. That's why if you look at a corresponding trauma to your mother making you feel guilt for your sexual abuse, the sexual abuse that happened to you, or for the fellas, the first time that you thought in the masculine and feminine seat, you sitting in that masculine seat, and the first thing that you were taught, you got to think about how it came along. It just didn't happen. It was already in the space. Think about everything that had to line up for it to happen. Your reaction, unknowingly, because we didn't understand, that reaction set the tone to the new effect. And until we deal with that reaction, you keep getting the same effects. You might get different variations, different qualities, different treatments, different segments, but it's always the same aspect. It always makes you feel exactly the same. It makes you feel the same exact emotion. I'm depressed, I'm upset, I'm this. I love too hard. Displays your discipline. It always leads to the same thing. This is one of the things that whenever I do a consultation, when I'm doing consultations, sessions, going through the classes, it doesn't matter. Like the first thing in a consultation is really, I want to know your story. Because what I'm listening for inside of the story is I'm looking for those I'm listening for the inflections. I'm watching your body language. I'm looking at how your eyes shift. I'm looking at the moments where you get real aggressive, and I'm looking at the moments where you really get passive. See, as you start understanding yourself, looking into that mirror with yourself, you start understanding like, damn, this is a reflection of what I do. But see that emotional relevance. You're trying to make something whole in the current space based on the fractures in your past space. It never evens up. That's why it's always chaotic. Because you're trying to change something that's only the result. I cannot change the result. The result is absolute. The result is the absolute. It is the immaculate agreement to my argument. It is one of the variations of the argument, my internal argument, or my dialogue, or my conflict, that becomes my immaculate agreement to that conflict in whatever variation it may be. Whether I'm compartmentalizing my life, and okay, cool, I have a good relationship. But I got a homegirl that I would never allow at my house around my man. Or I got a homeboy that I would never allow around the house in my man. That needs to exist for you to say you have a good man. Until you become what is authentic inside of yourself. That has to exist. the abuse, the countless abusive relationships, whether by you, the abuse that happened in your argument that led to creating your argument. In some variation, it needs to exist. Whether you're being abused in a relationship emotionally, physically, mentally, sexually, which is a encompassing of all three aspects, dynamics, spiritually, which is all four dynamics, or whether you're being abusive when it comes to your emotional presence or relevance in the aspects of money. See, everything, it still needs to exist somewhere. That's the only way the law stays in play. That's why when you start dealing with this yourself, that's when the chaos ensues. That's why that shit comes up. You're like, oh my God, this shit is happening to my life. My life is getting in shambles. You need that to happen. It's okay. You need it to happen. Because without that, you can't take accountability. See that relevance, the emotional relevance, you'll look at it based on recognition. It's because of this person. It's because of this person. But now you got to go and look at yourself. I always talk about this. One of the big letters that I give to my clients is, I want you to write a letter to yourself. At the end of that letter, you are going to write and accept and apologize to your inner self, to the innermost aspects of yourself, that I'm sorry that I benefited from this traumatic experience, because that's why I was able to leave you back here, and that's why I'm always searching and blaming everything else outside of me, because I wasn't ready to face you. Because facing you meant breaking myself. Facing you meant destroying everything that I've built on the foundation of my trauma. Facing you means assessing and eradicating and dissolving the agreements that I've made in my life to this point. And really sitting there with myself and allowing myself to, damn, I needed that to happen. Because you can keep getting everything that you think that you want and striving for it. But that law of exchange means that shit still has to exist. And that's what's always going to trigger you. As a reminder, it can be a reminder or it can be your opening, depending on how you look at it. Remember that reaction is that comfort. Comfort has nothing to do with being good. Reaction is comfort. Reaction is simply comfort. Stability has nothing to do with comfort. Structure has nothing to do with comfort. The transmutation process to become stable for peace is first going through war. In order to become stable, you have to destroy some shit in order to reassess the foundation. See, a lot of times from these experiences, we're looking at everything that we did, but it was already done. We're always going to look at the thought, which is the past. That thought feeds my shadow. My thought of I did all of this work back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to now. I've done a decade worth of work. Why can't I use that? Because that work is only based on the old argument. It's only based on the old agreement. So you can keep using it, but you'll only get the same thing. You'll only get this intellectualized concept to resource your life, instead of you actually using the intelligence, which is the intelligence, which is really getting into that darkness, really dealing with that shadow, really sitting down with yourself and assessing yourself. See, there's that difference. You can make 1,000 variations of yourself in order to say, okay, cool, I'm at this point. But the authentic authority doesn't need all that. I'll give you an example of how you create. I'm going to give you the example of how you create identities based on compartmentalization. You will create an identity based on each compartmentalized point of yourself. But when that identity is tested, this is how you know you're compartmentalizing. When that identity is tested, There's nothing behind it. There's no service. There's nothing behind it. It's empty. It's a shell. The only thing that's behind it is that emotion, that insecurity, that doubt. I created this version. Think about Batman. Batman created an entire alter ego, not integrated with his shadow, and that's why he created his one rule, or his one, watch Hunter x Hunter, he created that one rule that he won't kill, because that's the mark of his heart. Because if he kills someone, he has to face the shadow of his parents. His parents being the resource, his original resource to his argument. That means he'll have to go into that shadow space. Instead, he will intellectualize, in order to be a criminal, you got to live around criminals. So I'm going to steal, I'm going to do this. But that's why he was only stealing from his own places. Because he was not willing to jump into that darkness. That's why the Joker, at all times, doesn't want to kill bats. Ever. He'll never kill Batman. He doesn't need to. Because if he kills Batman, then if he kills Batman, the directness of killing Batman, then he loses the ability to use every resource and evade dealing with his own internal dialogue. You see how you start creating in your space? This is why most of your arguments, you are never arguing with the other person. I don't care what you say, what you do. You're never arguing with the other person. And it becomes more and more apparent the more and more you get closer to the divine masculine or the divine feminine archetype. The divine feminine and the divine masculine archetypes, they're intimately direct, impartial. That means for example, when you come to me for a consultation, I'm impartial as shit. I'll sit there, I'm listening to your story, and then I'll start pointing out certain points. Both sides. All in the questions that I'm going to ask. Tell me about this. You mentioned your mother about 6 times, and you mentioned your father about once. So your mother's not the issue that we need to talk about right now. Maybe it's your father. Tell me about the story about your father. And then because I'm bringing it up to balance. Because it does me no good to say, let's talk about your mother, if you've clearly displayed your emotional relevance with your mother, but you've never talked about the presence of your father. So we got to bring him into tandem. Then we can start doing the work. See, as long as you're always at an imbalance, you'll never be able to apply. Because they both equally need to be applied to. So a lot of times when we're going into this space on the law of even exchange, you're always getting something to fulfill your wound. That's why you'll do everything to fulfill the wound. I want to fulfill my wound. This is the reason why I don't do this. This is the reason why I don't do that. So now when you go further, I'm going to create this. But then you come to a point, you make that agreement, you got to live with it. Make that agreement, you got to live with it. Let's make the agreement. Oh, I'm living with this agreement. It's my immaculate agreement. But in order for me to go forward, got to stop avoiding it. It's one of those things that we're going to get deeper to on Friday when it comes into your spirit, like going into your internal work, your shadow work being synonymous with everything. You're going to need to do more of in this space. See, me being in the space that I'm in now, I must do more of. The more that I learn, the more that I must release. Because that's the only way that I can keep taking in. I'm always empty. I don't feel right when I do not feel at my most optimum when I'm holding shit back. But at the same time, in order to learn the difference between holding back and allowing myself to sit with things, because through the aggressive narrative, you feel through the aggressive narrative or the overcompensating narrative, you'll sit there and you'll be like, as soon as you get the download, as soon as you get the information, you want to go share it. Why? It fits that argument. Think about one of the biggest arguments that you do being the first of in your family. Hey, everybody comes to me for money. Everybody comes to me for advice, but I never get advice from anybody else. Because you live in that even exchange. Every time you get some information, Whether it be positive, negative, neutral, you share it. You share your thoughts based on the opposite of it, because you haven't simplified it yet. I was watching I don't know why I clicked on it, but I clicked on it. I clicked on a damn one of those debates, and I'm like, this is two motherfuckers trying to keep relevance going and haven't said anything. See, the simplification, that simple, the most simple answer is that you're angry. But behind your anger is what? What made you angry? That's your argument. That's your why. Until you understand that point, you always go forward creating things in fracture. It may look whole because you seek validation. Ooh, this is whole. That is what I needed to do. This is what I'm wanting to do in my life. I'm doing what I want. Why am I not getting what I need? Because you're evading something. Most of the shit that we do is based on evasion anyway. The quality of evasion. There's something I know I need to deal with. Why? Because I bring it up all the time. Niggas make me angry. Bitches ain't shit. I keep bringing it up all the time. The more I bring it up from that biased point, that's what I need to deal with. I'm always giving myself the answer. My mother always gave me the answer that I needed. My father, my uncle, the predator gave me the answer that I needed. It's just that I did not have the emotional intelligence to understand it. But it's okay. You have the choice. Every day you wake up, I was watching a podcast episode. Every day you wake up, you have a choice. And an agreement. Based on your choice, based on whatever you agree to, lines you up to the choices. Those choices are based upon the obstacle or your opportunity. So if you wake up in your argument, you woke up irritated and you chose to create the obstacles in your path to keep you irritated, then guess what you're going to have in your space? Everything's going to irritate you. Or it's going to be present based on your relevance to stay irritated. Nothing can make you upset. Nothing can make you mad. Nothing can make you anything that's not already present. Nothing. Nothing can make you upset. Nothing can make you mad. Nothing can... No one's telling you to, when you get off work, to go to the corner store, gas station, the place you went to go eat food, the place you went to go get the drink. Nobody told you to do that. Nobody told you to put your dependents and go get something from Rent-A-Center or whatever rental place that you got, and now you're quiet in your house. Man, they always showing up to my house. And since you still avoiding accountability, you'll sit there and be like, yo, if old buddy or old girl paid me, then I could go pay them. Your original argument you should be assessing is, why did you get it in the first place? Because of relevance. That relevance ain't got shit to do. That relevance always have you creating obstacles to keep you within those emotional debts. That anger, that sadness, that depression, that I work hard, I'm not lazy. The only reason that you working hard is to prove to somebody that you're not lazy. But everybody around you knows that you're late. The motherfuckers that you're really exposed to, they know that you're lazy. See how you just keep building the narratives for yourself. The laws of even exchange. The law of gender. What seat are you sitting in at this moment? Are you sitting in the masculine seat? That means you feel like you know something and it gives root, or it gives you the reason for you to react or stay emotionally relevant. Or are you sitting in the feminine seat? That means you're obsessed with receiving knowledge or using knowledge to keep you inside of that space? Which side are you in? Because I desire you to be the fucking best. Always going to desire you to be the fucking best. Remember, healing is destructive. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. In every moment that you move, and every time that you get up, you got a choice that will reflect your agreements. Obstacles are your debts. That means it keeps you living in that same space. Opportunities are the resources to take you out of your comfort zone. Everything from the shadow work consultation to any of my other services, also including the, what was I talking about? Also including the human design natal chart, also for the fellas. If you're interested in going into the first annual shadow healing retreat, that is, the registration is open now. Hit me up in the inbox. Upon setting up the appointment for your evaluation, we'll set the tone for the $180 deposit and your payment plan. There's 2 payment plans available for it. The entire price is $740 or $720. I gotta go look back. Go back, look through my page. Don't quote me on that. But the down payment is $180, and it's 2 payments. It's 2 payment plans. You can make 4 nice payments of $140, or you can make 20 payments of $30. 20 weekly payments of $30. Both due by February 20th, so you have your choice. If you're interested in a retreat, ladies, you are up next after this first retreat. Then I'm going to do the co-ed retreat. But you're up next after that retreat. But if you're interested or you think somebody that you know needs, they need some type of healing, you can hit me in my inbox as well. Great stocking stuffer. If you're willing to invest that much into somebody that you really care about into that space, great stocking stuffer. But yeah, if you're interested, hit me up. I'll email you the brochure. Read over it. You like it, and let's set something up. Because all I desire for you is to be the best. I desire you to become present. I desire you to become everything that you desire. You must first become. You must first embrace. Yeah. I love you. We love us. Ashe.